Today starts part 3 of our Summer in the Psalms journey. We've been learning what it means to stay rooted, stay focused, stay hopeful, and mission-minded in God and how we live our lives. Now this past year it's been insane. But no matter where we are in our lives, we need to stay focused on God and understand that He is with us every step of the way. We're going to jump into another psalm, 2 psalms today, like I mentioned last week, and learn about when we long for God and His help. God is still right by us. He is with us through all of our ups, all of our downs, and that God continues to give us hope for the future. So I realized that when life is tough, we can long for the past, and we can long for what's comfortable. We can all feel this way when we no longer have something in our lives, whether good or bad. When we miss something, or when life gets tough, we can long for a simpler, less stressful, and comfortable past. And that is what brings us to today's Psalm 42 and 43. So a little bit of information about Psalm 42 before we dive into it. Psalm 42 is written about a group of people longing for something that they once had but lost. And in this instance, it was actually something their parents and ancestors had done that led them to be in the place they were in now, in a place of longing. So if you join me, Psalm 42, 1-5. Just like a deer that craves streams of water, my whole being craves you, God. My whole being thirsts for God, for the living God. When will I come and see God's face? My tears have been my food both day and night, as people constantly question me, where is your God now? But I remember these things as I bear my soul, how I made my way to the Mighty One's abode, to God's own house, with joyous shouts and thanksgiving songs. A huge crowd celebrating the festival. Why, I ask myself, are you so depressed? Why are you so upset inside? Hope in God, because I will give Him thanks, my saving presence in my God. Now this is interesting. You can see that the author is really longing for something, and that something is God. To say that their soul is like a deer drinking from a stream shows that deep longing. What we see here is that the author's soul longs for God. So what has happened that this author has expressed such longing? Psalms have an exciting title. If you look at the beginning of the chapter, you'll see a small text that says, "To the choir master, a contemplation of the sons of Korah." Now, who are they, and what does that even mean? Well, we need to travel back a little bit to number 16, to a story of a group of people that came from the line of a man named Korah. In this story, Korah and his family were the priests in the nation of Israel. When Moses was the leader of the nation of Israel, he gave every tribe and family a role and responsibility. For Korah and his tribe, they were to take care of the outside of the temple. Now when Korah sees others doing certain things that he couldn't do, he gets angry, goes to Moses and Aaron, and questions their leadership. Since this came at a time when God was still trying to establish Israel as a nation, everything had strict orders from God Himself. This means if you go against Moses, you're going against God. Moses asked God to settle the argument, and guess who won? Spoiler alert, it's God. God always wins. All the men of his tribe and Korah himself were swallowed by the earth and killed, all except for the children of his tribe. God let the sons live so that they could still have a future. But they were not allowed near the temple again. Now, I know this story is crazy, but it's helping us see that the author is writing to connect with the longingness that the sons of Korah had for God. The author also connects what the sons of Korah had when their families were alive and working under Moses at the temple. Let's continue with the rest of 42, verses 6 through 11. My whole being is depressed. That's why I remember you from the land of Jordan and Hermon, from Mount Mizar. Deep called to deep at the noise of your waterfalls. All of your massive waves surged over me. By day the Lord commands His faithful love. By night His song is with me, a prayer to the God of my life. I will say to God, my solid rock, why have you forgotten me? Why do I have to walk around sad, oppressed by the enemies? With my bones crushed, my foes make fun of me, constantly questioning me, where is your God now? Why, I ask myself, are you so depressed? Why are you so upset inside? Hope in God, because I will again give Him thanks, my saving presence and my God. So again, this author describes this longing to be with God, and since it was in the temple that you could experience God, they long for what they once had. To the author, it feels like God is far away. And when we face problems, it can feel like that for us. Sometimes God feels far when we face the hardships, and the author describes it as an enemy that taunts him. And this could be from someone judging the author because he's a son of Korah, or that just the separation from God is still rough. He feels like they've been completely abandoned, and when we face hard times or feel desperate to regain the lost, it just feels not fun. So let's go to Psalm 43 as it's a continuation of Psalm 42. Establish justice for me. Argue my case against ungodly people. Rescue me from the dishonest and the unjust, because you are my God, my protective fortress. Why have you rejected me? Why do I have to walk around sad, oppressed by my enemies? Send your light and truth. Those will guide me. Let them bring me to your holy mountain, to your dwelling place. Let me come to God's altar. Let me come to God, my joy and my delight. Then I will give you thanks with the lyre, God, my God. Why, I ask myself, are you so depressed? Why are you so upset inside? Hope in God, because I will again give him thanks, my saving presence and my God. So as you may have noticed, some lines in Psalm 43 are the same as what we saw in Psalm 42. This is because these two are together, one song that was sung. As it was written, there was a break in it, so it was separated. So as we read this psalm, we see a similar description and more of the enemy that taunts his author. Whatever the author is facing seems to be other people who despise him, and he asks God to help him and save him through God's light and truth. Psalm 5, which is the same, or this is Psalm 5, which is the same as Psalm 42:11, that the author has to hope in God and praises God and knows that his salvation comes from the Lord. So we see that the author chooses to have hope in God. I can't imagine what this author is going through, but to go through a challenging situation, one that leaves you desperate for something you lost, it can be so hard. So it's encouraging to see this author, the sons of Korah, be holding on to hope in God and still seeing God as their protector and provider of their salvation. So the point is this: when life is tough, God gives us hope. When we see how God has worked in our yesterday, we can know that God is with us in the present, guiding us into our tomorrows. We may miss what we once had or wish that things were different than what we face today, but in it, all God is here. God is with you, with me, with those around you. So in this journey of life, when the journey gets tough and we get desperate for God, he reminds us of his faithfulness in the past and giving us hope for the future. Stay rooted in God. Stay focused on him and his plan for your life. Stay hopeful for what he is doing in you. And then stay mission-minded for the life God wants you to live. That wraps us up. We'll be back next week for another session. As always, stay blessed.